NASCAR's most intense action-packed racing. At a track where you feel it, hear it, and see it, unlike anywhere else.
Anybody that asks me when they're going to their first race, I'm sending them here.
This is the hottest ticket in NASCAR. Experience the thrills for yourself at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover, glad to welcome you back to our Tuscaloosa studios as we've transitioned from the football season now to the rest of the year programming that we have for you here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. We'll have the show coming up once a week on Thursdays at 2 p.m., leading you all throughout the upcoming school year and into the month of June. But we're certainly glad to be with you for the next 2 weeks before we take a 2-week break for the Christmas and New Year's holiday, as we have a lot to talk about with the Alabama Crimson Tide. We'll start to go through everything coming up on the show today, thanks to our friends at RJ Young. RJ Young is the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us a smart board to go through really in an interactive fashion through what's coming up on the show, plus our headlines for today. We will start by going to Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, taking a look at our Georgia game booth camp highlights from the SEC Championship game, a memorable win for the Crimson Tide over Georgia that earned Alabama a berth to the college football playoff. And then we'll take a look at the Courtside cam highlights from basketball. It was Monday night. The men's basketball team was home against Arkansas State. Great win for Alabama. We'll have a lot of fun with our Courtside cam highlights coming up. And then we'll be also heading to not Courtside cam highlights, but we will go to a Courtside cam that we had yesterday for women's basketball against Coastal Carolina. It was Christy Curry, the head coach of the women's basketball team, visiting with Gray Robertson, talking about the great win that Alabama had against Coastal, plus what's coming up this weekend against Stephen F. Austin and Sanford. Last but not least, we'll have a great conversation with Richard Hendrix, SEC Network basketball analyst, and he joins us a lot all throughout the winter for Hoops with Hendrix. We'll have our first conversation of the year with Richard Hendrix on Crimson Tide basketball. As we start to go through the headlines, first, some final notes on football. And wasn't it fun in Atlanta on Saturday? Crimson Tide getting that 27-24 win against Georgia. Jalen Milroe, the SEC Championship game MVP. The win gives Alabama its 30th SEC Championship in school history. That's obviously the most in the history of the Southeastern Conference. That was Saturday night. Then on Sunday, we were kind of waiting around for the college football playoff show, as we would see Alabama was selected number 4, the number 4 seed for the college football playoff, and paired up against number 1 seed Michigan, getting to play in the Rose Bowl game in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl coming up on January 1st at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central. We'll have full radio coverage there. We cannot wait to be in Pasadena on New Year's Day for the Rose Bowl, Alabama against Michigan. Some other notes around Crimson Tide athletics. Looking at the basketball team, as I mentioned, that solid win against Arkansas State. Really, that number is the big number right there, 65. Alabama's been looking for stronger defense. Certainly got that against Brian Hodgson's team on Monday. Mark Sears provided the offense. He led the Crimson Tide with 13 points, another strong effort by the senior from Muscle Shoals. Now coming up on Saturday, Alabama will take part in the Hall of Fame series in Toronto, and the Crimson Tide will take on a team that has been ranked number 1 this season, currently number 4. It's the Purdue Boilermakers, Alabama's next opponent. Our coverage will start at 11:30 a.m. Central, leading up to that 12:30 tip-off against Purdue. Really excited for Alabama against Purdue coming up this weekend. And in women's basketball, as I mentioned, a great win yesterday against Coastal Carolina. Alabama never trailed in the ballgame. Sarah Ashley Barker with 15 points, but really everybody contributed for the Crimson Tide. A lot of fun as well with the 5th grade fast break. It was very loud at Coleman Coliseum yesterday, and we hope it stays that way coming up Saturday and Sunday for the 2 home games that are left this week. Stephen F. Austin and on Saturday, and then Sanford coming up on Sunday. Both of those games at 2 o'clock, and we'll have full radio coverage available across the network. Full radio coverage on Saturday, this past Saturday, for the SEC Championship game in Atlanta. What a joy it was to be there, and what a thrilling victory for the Crimson Tide, as we had a lot of fun in the booth, as you probably saw on the Royal Furniture booth cam that had great numbers over the weekend. A lot of people streaming live, a lot of people watching the highlights. Now let's take a look back at all the highlights from Alabama's win against Georgia in the SEC Championship game.
Please hurry up, kick this thing off. We're all ready to go. 48-yard try. Kick is up. Kick is good. The field goal is good. Bama's on the board, and nobody in the history of NCAA football has scored more points than Will Reichert, 533 now for his career. Roydell is the lone setback. Jalen operating under center again. Walks up behind his center. Gets the snap, hands it off. Fighting forward, easily getting the first down. Roy Dell Williams moved the chain. 1st and 20 for Alabama. Snap to Milroe. Jalen looking. He's got Miller wide open. 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown. Alabama takes the lead with 12:04 to go in the first half. Flanking either side of Carson Beck. Waiting on the snap. Gets it. Hands it off left side. And Bama's able to trip him up. Oh, what a play, Deontay Lawson. From 49 with the Bama fans making a lot of noise here in Atlanta. Snap, spot, kick. It's up, and it is off the post. No good.
5 yards did matter, Chris.
They send Prentice to the right side of the formation. Snap comes to Milroe. Looking, firing right side. Pass is going to be caught by Bond at the 15-yard line.
Boy.
What a catch for a first down.
You're talking about adjustment by Isaiah Bond. Going back to that ball, Jalen Milroe has the one-on-one coverage on the corner route. He's forced a little bit to his right and has to throw it off balance. Underthrows it, and Bonds reacts to it and gets it for the first down.
2nd down and 10 upcoming. 2 wide outs each side. Miller again to the right side of Milroe. Jalen looking, plenty of time, firing left side. It is juggled. It is caught. Touchdown, Jermaine Burton, and Alabama adds to its lead with 48 seconds to go in the half. They'll run to the line of scrimmage. They'll go on a little toss to the right side, and getting tripped up is going to be Dejon Edwards. A loss on the play. Terry and Arnold leading the charge, along with Alabama's Kool-Aid McKinstry. Under 2.5 now remaining in the 3rd quarter. Bama up 17-10 here in Atlanta at the SEC Championship. Misdirection, ball's on the deck, scrambling for it, a fight underneath the pile. Bama came out with it. Trisman Marshall recovers the fumble inside the Georgia 10, and Bama is knocking on the door. Now, in what would be a 28-yard field goal from the near hash. Riker trying to give Bama the 10-point lead. Snap and spot are good. The kick is up. The kick is good. Get those 4s up. Alabama holding a 20-10 lead over the Georgia Bulldogs heading to the 4th quarter. We got 15 minutes left to decide an SEC champion and maybe, just maybe, one of the 4 that'll play for it all. He's got Bond to his left. Now Burton comes left as well. Milroe looking, plenty of time. He'll dump it off. It's Bond, 40. Bond down to the 35. First down, Alabama at the Bulldog 34-yard line. Snap to Milroe. Looking. Stepping up, flips it, caught. Bond, 20. Bond, 15. Out of bounds inside the 10. First down, Alabama. Move the sticks again.
He wanted to run the ball up the middle, but he had another spy sitting on him. But when that spy came up, it opened up the picture for Isaiah Bond.
Looking, Milroe looking, jumps it off, catch is made. Bond, 5, Bond, goal line, Bond in, touchdown, Alabama.
I'm sure they're going to review this. His knee may have come down.
2nd and a coat of paint on the football. Tom Stipes calling it the pachyderm push. We'll see what it is. Milroe hands it off, fighting, getting to the goal line, getting in, I do believe, for a touchdown. Roy Dell Williams, touchdown Alabama. 3 minutes to go as Georgia gets to the line of scrimmage. It's 3rd and goal. They'll hand it off, and he spins, and he didn't get in. Arnold made the hit, spinning him around. It was Milton trying to get there, and now Georgia has to use a timeout with 2:52 to go. Milroe with a man in motion, gets the snap. He wants to run it himself. He does, left side, keeps his feet, 35, 40, foot race, midfield. He's going to stay in bounds and get knocked down, and that will keep the clock moving with 2:40 to go. 30-yard pickup from Jalen Milroe, waiting on the snap. He's got Williams to his right. They'll bring Bond in motion. They'll fake the toss. Milroe keeps it himself. He's got yardage inside the 35. He's got a Bama first down, brought to you by Bank First. Move Georgia with 1 timeout left.
I was so hoping you were about to say, and Georgia is leaving the building.
Look, they're looking for the exits, and there's a lot of that bright red that's heading to the house right now. But the Crimson is staying put. Victory formation. Milroe takes the knee. 1:11 to go. Georgia can't stop the clock. Bama will face a 3rd and 10. We'll have to snap it just one more time. The celebration has begun on the Bama sideline. The celebration has begun in the stands. And it ain't far from happening here in the booth either. Play clock under 10. Game clock at 38. Jalen getting the snap, taking the knee, and the white flag has been waved from the Georgia sideline. And what do you say, folks? Let's get out of here. Bama, a winner over the Georgia Bulldogs, claiming the SEC title for the 30th time in school history. Keep us out. I dare you.
Crimson Drive is driven by NASCAR, a weekend of good times, unforgettable entertainment, and 3-wide high-speed thrills are available all race long. That's what NASCAR Spring Weekend in Atlanta is all about, and the best way to experience it is at the track. Don't miss the Ambetter Health 400 weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway with 3 days of racing thrills starting on February 23rd, lasting through February 25th. Atlanta is the hottest ticket in NASCAR, so don't wait. Get yours now at atlantamotorspeedway.com. Well, the booth cam was a lot of fun on Saturday, and on Monday night we returned home to Coleman Coliseum for men's basketball, and we fired up the Courtside cam with the Crimson Tide hoping to get back in the win column against Arkansas State following last week's loss against Clemson. Here's the best moments from Alabama's victory against Arkansas State on the Courtside cam presented by NASCAR.
Bama the home white, Arkansas State the road black. Tap control of the backcourt by the Crimson Tide. Sears gives it off to Nelson, driving to his left. The bounce pass to Wagee, out to Sears. Open with 3 ball taken away by Wagee, and here's Bama on the run, 5-on-4. Reitzel looking into the left corner, Nelson. Catch and shoot, 3, bottom. Back to back, bank first threes for Bama. Kicks with the basketball, had it stripped and stolen. Sears took it away. 1 man to beat, drives in, had it blocked from behind, but saved by Estrada. The no-look to Nelson for the flush.
Great hustle by Aaron Estrada. Didn't assume that Mark Sears was going to make the layup.
Mark on the right wing, working against that zone look from the Red Wolves. Steps through it, gives it off to Estrada. Steps into a 3, bottom. Bama 3 for 3. Rebounded by Wagee. He picks up a loose ball. Now he'll spin, kicks it out. Cosby, 3, bottom. Now here's Rylan Griffin left side. Thought about a 3, gives it to Wagee. Gets it back, drives, dishes. Wagee to the rim. Left-handed layup is good.
Great high pick and roll, then the give and go. Rylan Griffin with a beautiful bounce pass. Not easy for most big men at 6'10" to handle, but Wagee able to catch it and finish at the rim with the left hand.
Deep 3 is missed. Grabbing another board, the 4th for Davin Cosby, and he'll bring it ahead now. Still 22-14 in the corner. Griffin, 3, bottom. Picked up by Nelson. Flips it ahead on the right wing to Sears. Back to Nelson, all alone, dead on, 3, bottom. Working. Takes a dribble to his right. Goes between the legs with a bounce. Gives it off. Diabate, 3. Hits the front rim. Plays Flipko. And Bob Barker says you're moving on. It hit the rim 7 or 8 times, top of the glass 3, dropped down, hit the rim 2 more times, and settled through the net. It counts as a bank first 3-pointer, and Bama leads by 20.
I don't think I've ever seen one like that. That had no chance of going in.
Oh, you just had to wish it in. A bounce pass now to Walters, top of the arc, left to the key. Stevenson, 3, bottom. Walters, catch and shoot, 3, bottom. Latrell gets it front court, going down the far sideline. Brings it to the arc, now to Cosby. Fakes a pass, now shoots the 3, bottom. Good to see him make another. Reitzel taps it ahead to Estrada. We got numbers. Near corner, Cosby, 3, bottom. Boy, it'd be nice to get him rolling. He's got 3. Lost it, got it back. Good hustle as Sears finds Griffin in the corner again. He'll drive in and elevate to throw it home. Crosses over, gives it off. Stevenson, right corner, 3, bottom. Alabama now 13 of 28 from bank first, 3-point range. Bama will back it out with 89-65 our score, and that's what the final will be, as Nate Oates is going to shake hands, probably hug Brian Hodgson. That is exactly what we saw from those two longtime friends.
NASCAR's most intense action-packed racing at a track that's built to thrill you all weekend long. It's the hottest ticket in NASCAR, and it's only at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
So it was good to see men's basketball at home on Monday, and then yesterday on Wednesday morning, it was a very busy time at Coleman Coliseum for women's basketball with the 5th grade fast break. Alabama hosting Coastal Carolina. Really strong performance by the Crimson Tide. Never trailed in the ball game, getting an impressive win in front of, again, a lot of 5th graders at Coleman Coliseum. One of the best atmospheres of the season. And after the ball game was over, Gray Robertson courtside was talking with Coach Curry about the 5th grade fast break and Alabama's win against Coastal Carolina, plus what's coming up for the Crimson Tide this weekend at home in Tuscaloosa.
I mean, this is an awesome environment. I want to thank the school systems and every little kid that got a chance to come today. It's like, it gets me emotional because at the end of the day, some of these kids have never been on this campus. And so the opportunity we get to be role models and our kids to play really hard and show them you can do and be anything you want to be, it's a lot bigger than basketball today. So thanks to our promotions and all the school system, and it's a pretty cool environment. So maybe we lost our focus a little, because it's pretty tough. I
get
mean,
it.
They were cheering for both teams. I mean, it was a constant, but at the end of the day, today is really, really special. So thanks to our administration, our promotions, and all the school systems, because I'm serious, there are kids that came to Alabama for the first time today here locally. And that's what it's about. It's bigger than basketball today, and I'm glad our kids responded. I thought it was just really, really doubling them up. That was our goal, was to double them up today, and we did that.
Well, and Coach, you talked about role models. They have a ton of options, these kids who watched the game today. McQueen, Barker, Timmons, Nye, Williams, all in double figures. Cody was almost there. Cunningham had a really good game.
Yeah.
We've talked so much about the balance, but what did you see in that regard today?
Well, I just thought we had everybody do a lot on both sides of the ball, and that's when we're at our best, when we don't have a bad day. Like, we just don't have time for anyone to have a bad day. We know we're better collectively. You know, we don't have that necessarily that star. You know, we don't have a Brittany Davis. I mean, we don't have a Jasmine Walker, but collectively, you know, and I think SA's trying to be that without a doubt, but she's got to have some help. And when we have that 4th player in double figures, and then we get to 5 and nearly 6, I think it's really special. So big weekend coming up, no time to rest. 2 really good teams. Like Stephen Elf is really good. They compete for their league every year. Sanford 6-2. Listen, there's no joke about what's about to happen this weekend, so we need everybody in here to support us. I think this team has earned the right for folks to come in the gym and support us. They've worked so hard and doing some really good things.
Absolutely agreed. And Coach, you mentioned the next 2 games. It's a quick turnaround. You're playing Saturday, you're playing Sunday. That's a lot of basketball in a small window. What's the plan for the team as they get ready for that next matchup against Stephen F. Austin?
Well, tomorrow, you know, is go back and learn from today, understand what we need to do against Stephen F. and Sanford. So we'll work a little bit against both of them. The one thing we're going to see this weekend from both teams is a lot of zone. So we're going to have to make really good choices about ball movement, changing sides of the floor, getting the ball into the high post, making sure that we get our feet set and we don't take quick, bad shots. I thought the first half we took a few quick shots instead of getting the best shot. And so really good decisions against the zone. We're going to have to get stops so we can get our transition game going and not play against the zone. So we need to do the things that we need to do. We're excited about the weekend, the opportunity, you know, to finish 13-2 before Christmas is the goal.
Absolutely, Coach. Well, can't wait to see it. We'll see you then, and congrats on the win.
Thank you. Roll Tide.
That's Alabama head coach Christy Curry joining us.
Crimson Drive is driven by NASCAR and a weekend of good times, unforgettable entertainment, and 3 wide high-speed thrills are available all race long when you watch the Better Health 400 weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway. 3 days of racing thrills again from February 23rd to the 25th. Get your tickets now at atlantamotorspeedway.com. Well, also, right after yesterday's women's game was over, Richard Hendrix and I, we called the game on SEC Network Plus, and then we walked upstairs to Stipe Lounge, just at the entrance of Coleman Coliseum, again, presented by Royal Furniture. It's always the site of the Ford pregame show for Alabama men's basketball, and we decided just to talk. We usually have Richard join us on Zoom for a few interviews all throughout the basketball season, but wanted to catch up in person, talking about Alabama women's basketball, plus him giving thoughts on men's basketball and what the Crimson Tide have coming up, and what's going to be a very tough stretch away from home over the next few weeks, starting with this Saturday's game in Toronto against the Purdue Boilermakers. So, Hoops with Hendrix, a new location. How about Stipe Lounge for this one as we chat here in early December?
Roger Hoover now pleased to be joined by Richard Hendrix, former Crimson Tide star, and he'll be joining us all throughout this basketball season for what we like to call Hoops with Hendrix. We'll try and do it in person like this as much as we can at Coleman Coliseum, as we're at Stipe Lounge presented by Royal Furniture, usually the most comfortable college basketball pregame show set in the nation. And Richard, welcome. First time to Stipe Lounge.
You're right. I mean, Stipe Lounge, I'm almost about to fall asleep over here with this outstanding furniture. I mean, goodness, but glad to be here.
Well, we're certainly glad to have you here as we're chatting just after Alabama women's basketball picked up a win against Coastal Carolina for the fifth grade fast break. Coleman was full just a moment ago, full of fifth graders, a lot of energy, and really the Crimson Tide play matched the energy all throughout that ball game.
It was a great environment. You talk about thousands of kids here cheering on in a really, really loud Coleman Coliseum, which really made things a lot of fun for the girls. And not only that, the women played an outstanding game. Really good basketball against Coastal Carolina.
You got to see this group through their first few games here at home to start the season. A great win against South Florida right before the team hit on the road. Just what have you made at the start of the season for Alabama?
Well, I think they're settling into their own. You're talking about this is a new team from last year, and you have some leadership roles that have stepped up that played role players last year with Sarah Ashley Barker and Aaliyah Nye now sliding over into starting roles, as well as Loyal McQueen. But the consistency of play from several players on this team has really made Alabama a really good team, as well as you talk about the defensive versatility and length that they have on this roster. They could be a really good team.
And it really starts with defense in a lot of ways for this group. Obviously, Sarah Ashley Barker brings back that, but how about Aaliyah Nye with what she's done defensively?
Well, it's been a joy to watch what she's doing, adding to her game on the defensive end. She's been able to run players off screens and being a lot more physical, disrupting a lot of plays and getting steals and leading from the defense, which turns into offense. But she seems to set the tone and being much more confident and under control on the defensive end this season than she was last year.
And then how about Sarah Ashley Barker?
Well, a tremendous athlete. So all around the court, strong. She's all over. She can rebound. She can block shots. She can defend multiple positions and play in the post. So I think the thing for her was not so much the defensive end, but the offensive end, that she's done a really good job of slowing her game down and bringing a lot more consistent play to match that tenacity that she has on the defensive side of the ball.
In the game we just saw on Wednesday, Essence Cody, another fine performance for the Crimson Tide 2 weeks ago. She was named the SEC Freshman of the Week, and she had 5 blocks today against Coastal. Is she being the rim protector you wanted to see?
Well, has a lot of potential. And, so when you have the size and the ability and the talent that she has, you want to see some strong interior play. I mean, she's doing a good job on the defensive end today with 5 block shots against Coastal Carolina, but she's going to have to continue to be a little bit more consistent scorer, using her physicality, getting closer into the paint, getting high-level shots and efficient shots, and making sure that she's going to be an effective and consistent scorer on the post, because if she can reach her potential and be who she really is, you're talking about the balance that you're now able to have for this Alabama women's basketball team, which really, really opens up a lot of doors for them to be the best team they can be.
Well, the Crimson Tide again playing on Wednesday for the 5th grade fast break, and then games coming up this weekend, back-to-back days. Stephen F. Austin, 2 o'clock on Saturday, 2 o'clock as well on Sunday against Samford. How can a stretch like this help prepare the Crimson Tide for conference play, which is really right around the corner?
Well, you can do several things. You can establish your depth, because these are games you talk about. Alabama definitely has the advantage as far as talent, so you're expected that you should be the heavy favorite coming into these games. You can establish your depth, as well as you can get a little bit more confidence, and mainly one thing that's very important, playing back-to-back games, it gives you experience of what it can be like moving into SEC play for the SEC tournament, when you're going to have to win several games in a back-to-back setting with a short preparation, rest, and just so getting in that environment and getting that done now in the middle of the season against teams that you're heavily favored against will be good to establish that, and also to establish better play from the whole entire roster.
So at the time we record, Alabama women's basketball off to an 8-2 start. The men's basketball team, only 2 losses as well for Nate Oates and his group. Just overall, what have you made of the starts of the season from Nate Oates? It's been a few games since we've gotten to call a game together here in Coleman, but obviously they've continued to improve.
Jumped off to a hot start. You're talking about almost 4 games consecutively to start the season scoring over 100 points. And this is a team, and it's also in a time period of college basketball. It's hard to tell what a team can be early on. You got new players on rosters with the transfer portal, players coming over with additions, playing really good basketball early on, but dropped a couple of games, particularly in the ACC-SEC Challenge against Clemson here at home. Not a game that Alabama wants to drop, moving into more difficult schedule here, but we'll be looking to see what they were able to do, maybe to rebound against Arkansas State and do a good job in that performance. But they're going to have to continue to find out who they are as a basketball team, because some important games coming up with some big-time NCAA tournament implications. And if they can play high-level basketball and get some of those wins, which will be on the road, then that can definitely help this team as they move forward.
Yeah, coming up, Purdue, Creighton, Arizona, all away from Coleman Coliseum. We just were in this building on Monday night for Alabama's win against Arkansas State. Good to see Brian Hodgson, former Crimson Tide assistant, back in the building, and also good to see some defense from this Crimson Tide team, because that's been the thing Coach Oates has talked about even going back to the Emerald Coast Classic. How can Alabama improve on defense?
Well, Alabama's going to have to do it first off, taking on the individual challenge. You have to guard your own man and contain dribble penetration, not allowing guards to get into the paint easily to create for themselves and for others. You don't have the luxury of this roster to have a 7-footer like Charles Bediako in the back to erase your mistakes, so you have to take on the challenge of everything from an individual standpoint. Then secondly, you have to be connected. Know where you are on the defensive court. Know where you're supposed to be. Understand the assignments and the strategy and what you're trying to accomplish. And then as a team, you have to do a much better job of finishing out every single possession with quality rebounds, because your defense can then lead to offense, and you get up and down the court the way Alabama wants to play and shoot shots from the outside and shoot them quickly. So the defensive end, play defense for the entire game, not just in spurts. You want to be a consistent defensive team that can put together a 40-minute ball game of defense that is played consistently, not just for runs for a little bit and then you have your lapses. So it's a matter of them getting together and being a better team, more connected, having more consistency, and having a little bit more grit.
Defense will really be needed coming up on Saturday in Toronto, and Alabama's taking on 4th-ranked Purdue, also taking on the reigning player of the year in college basketball, Zach Edey. He stands at 7'4", Richard. He presents a lot of challenges, both scoring, rebounding, all areas of the game.
He definitely does. You're talking about 7'4" and agile. I mean, this is not a guy who cannot move. He understands how to move his body around and get good position. His teammates understand where to put him on the court to get it. He has a nice, soft touch around the basket, and he has a lot of weight to him that it's hard to move him off the block. So Alabama will have their hands full. Alabama does not have a roster that has a guy that can definitely guard a man up one-on-one and control the national player of the year. So you're going to have to once again go back to the team philosophy. How can you make him neutralize his abilities? One way that you can do that is to make him guard you on the offensive end. So it's a connected game, your offense and defense. You're going to have to make Edey move on the offensive end, on the defensive end, and move his feet, see if you can get him in foul trouble, get him up and down in pace, and win the game in many other ways, not just trying to focus solely on stopping what he can do. He needs to stop you.
Absolutely. So hopefully Nick Pringle may be coming back for the Crimson Tide in that ball game. Also, Muhammad Wagi has stepped up as a starter in the post. What have you liked about his game?
Well, he stepped up in the absence, which is important. You're talking about a young player, doesn't have a lot of experience coming off some injuries that he's had in past, but he's starting to hit his stride. He's been able to do some really good things and contribute, particularly in the screen and roll setting and rim protection. Not a technical post player that you can throw the ball to on the block, and I don't know if he's necessarily a big, strong body that can hold his own defensively in a one-on-one against a bruiser like an Edey, but nonetheless, he has to use his activity, he has to use his length, and he has to use his toughness to come out and accept the challenge, because he's going to be called on bigly when it comes to this name against Purdue.
How do you like the game right now at Grant Nelson?
Well, you talk about skill set, 6'11", long arms. He can play on the perimeter. He can shoot. He can drive. He can defend on the defensive end. So he can do it all. It's just a matter of how can you do it consistently every single night and at a high level and high enough level to help lead this team to the levels that you need to when you play against the top level opponents. As we were able to see him in the first 4 games, dominant performance as he did last year as he transfers over from North Dakota State. But that's a different level. And I think now as you move towards this getting there to conference play, you're going to have to see his game's going to have to step up because the competition will be tougher. Players will be bigger. They will be better. And you'll have to see his real potential about what he can be. It's going to be fun to watch and interesting to see how he can handle that because he's a talented player.
Well, especially in a stretch like this, you talk about getting ready for conference play, going to Toronto to take on Purdue and then Creighton, Arizona on the road. I mean, this is once again a really tough schedule for Nate Oates and the Crimson Tide. They won't be back here at Coleman until December 23rd against Eastern Kentucky.
Right. I mean, you have to take on the challenge. You talk about Creighton's a really well-coached team. Arizona has a talented team. So you're definitely going to be challenged all the way around. There's not going to be a night off, and you don't have the advantage of being in the friendly confines of Coleman Coliseum. So you have to make sure that you're taking advantage of it and playing your best ball and being disciplined and being focused from the beginning to end.
So that's some talk about Alabama women's and men's basketball. Before we let you go, of course, you're a former Crimson Tide player. You and a lot of your teammates got to be here for Alumni Weekend a few weeks ago, around a football weekend and the Mercer basketball game. Just how enjoyable was that, and what kind of experience Coach Oates and the Crimson Tide provide for you guys?
Well, that was a joy. I mean, you have to be thankful to the current staff and Coach Oates for, putting that on and hosting the alumni, that we could get an opportunity to come back here and get on the court and be received by the fan base here in Coleman Coliseum, as well as, interact a little bit with the current players. But, it shows, where this program is and how they respect the players they have, because Alabama in recent years, obviously, 2 out of the last 3 SEC championships, winning them in the regular season and the tournament, and put out some really good players into the NBA draft, into the professional ranks. But to see the alumni come back, that shows the current players that Alabama is not just a program that is just now coming. It's something that has always been there. You talk about it, it's always had NBA draft picks. It's always been winning programs and always had a really, really good fan base for a long period of time with really good coaches. So it gets to show the current players that you're not just a part of something new. You're part of something that's been established for a long time. The second most winning program in the Southeastern Conference, winning championships for a long period of time and cranking out pros. So I think that is a really good thing for the players, so they can know that they're a part of a rich basketball tradition here at Alabama. And I hope it continues, and I hope they continue to have the Alumni Weekend.
We look forward to it. Richard Hendrix, so we hope you'll hang out with us more here at Stipe Lounge and do some more Hoops with Hendrix interviews for Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR as the year rolls along. But thank you for your time. Roll Tide.
Thank you. Roll Tide.
Really appreciate the time and the insights from Richard Hendrix on Crimson Tide basketball, and we look forward to kind of picking his brain at least once a month coming up all throughout the basketball season with Hoops with Hendrix. Make sure you watch out for him coming up on the SEC Network, plus some SEC Network Plus broadcast here from Tuscaloosa. Speaking of what's coming up, let's take a look at our upcoming schedule, brought to you by our friends at Wickles Pickles. They are wickedly delicious. You can find out more at wickelspickles.com. Let's see what's coming up across the Crimson Tide Sports Network this weekend. Well, coming up, we are getting ready for a road trip to Canada in men's basketball. First of all, it'll be Alabama against Purdue starting at 12:30 p.m. on Saturday. Our radio coverage will start north of the border at 11:30 a.m., so we look forward to a terrific matchup. Alabama against fourth-ranked Purdue. Purdue has won 31 straight games in non-conference play. It's a really remarkable run for the Boilermakers. Hopefully, Alabama will pick up the win on Saturday. Then coming up on Saturday as well, women's basketball is home once again against Stephen F. Austin, as we talked about with Coach Curry and in Gray Robertson's post-game interview. You have the women's team playing back-to-back games. Stephen F. Austin on Saturday, Sunday at 2 o'clock against Samford for an in-state matchup. Look forward to having both of those on the radio for you. And then Monday, we'll be back at it with our first basketball edition of Hey Coach with Nate Oates from 6 to 7 p.m. on Monday at Baumhower's Victory Grill here in Tuscaloosa. Look forward to seeing everyone at that show, as we'll have that show coming up not only this Monday, but the week after as well. well. And then we will take a bit of a holiday break, not only for Hey Coach, but also for Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. That one other programming note, we will have Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR, next Thursday at 2 o'clock, and then taking a couple of weeks off for the holiday break. But that's what's coming up. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media accounts listed below. This is your Wickles Weekend Update. And that's going to wrap up this edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Special thanks to Richard Hendrix for his insights, plus Ethan Carabin putting this entire show together, as well as all of the booth cam or courtside cam highlights that you watched. Really appreciate the great work he's done. Follow more of our clips, again, on our social media platforms. For everybody with the Crimson Tide Sports Network, this is Roger Hoover saying thank you for watching. We're the SEC champions in football. We got some great basketball wins ahead as well here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Roll Tide, everyone.